Wow. Know yourself, achieve your goals through better self knowledge, continue creating your desired image. If you think back to the perception box, how do I perceive myself, and compare the description there to those in your perception frame, how I believe others perceive me, you may find there are significant differences. How do I perceive myself? How I believe others perceive me. The first issue to explore is your image, is the potential difference between how you perceive yourself and how you believe others perceive you, which may also differ from how they actually do see you. In fact, you are probably a bit of both of these, and resolving the potential differences is simply the acceptance of what is in both boxes as being valid and okay. You might also like to consider the behavioral evidence you have presented. Is it still current? Is it accurate? Once you have reconciled these two sets of perceptions, you can move on to dealing with the second issue regarding your image, that is the potential difference between who you are now and what you want to be. Here the plot thickens because there are now four sets of perceptions to think about. How do I perceive myself? How I believe others perceive me? How I would like to perceive myself? How I would like others to perceive me? Problems often arise when you think the way the world sees you and the way you would like the world to see you are too far apart. As a result, you end up trying to convey one image to yourself while deep down you may think that's really not you, me. In trying to reconcile these differences, you end up creating outward images of yourself. You end up not really being who you are, but using it to hide yourself behind the mask that portray the image that you wish others to hold of you. These masks protect you from the judgment of others. They hide the truth. They inevitably lead you to tension and stress as you constantly try to be this wonderful, perfect person that you think the world expects you to be. The tension increases as the discrepancy between the mask and the reality widens. Understanding your present image is about resolving the differences between the first set of perceptions, creating them, managing your image are about resolving the differences between the second set of perceptions. It is also about making sure that the discrepancies between who you are and who you would like to be are minimal, or at least that you are aware of them, comfortable with them, or working on improving them. Having done the work of understanding your image, you are now ready to start creating your desired image. To create the image you want is really quite simple. You need to write down the adjectives and the phrases that describe the image you desire and write down appropriate patterns of behaviors that will generate that image. Remember to be as consistent as possible between the two boxes shown below. How I would like to perceive myself, how I would like others to perceive me. Your desired image, the behavioral analysis. The blackmailer. You will undoubtedly have some characteristics that you're not so proud of. Being confident about who you are and not being able to generate the image you want means you have to accept these somewhat more negative facets of yourself together with all the positive ones. So far in reading here, you have spent majority of the time looking at all the positive things about yourself. It is time to start looking at those aspects that you are not quite so proud of. After all, if you really looked at the positive, there would be little to improve and you would not need this. Everyone holds some beliefs and information about themselves that they would feel the world at large really doesn't need to know about. These beliefs might be based on things you have done or not done. They are often based on your interpretation of events you have happened over the years. There may be general characteristics that you feel are best kept a secret. This part of you is the hidden self and is the part that only you know about. The hidden self information and beliefs about yourself that you do not normally share with others. There are also some things that others know or believe about you and that you know they know or believe about you. This is common knowledge in that it is shared openly between you and others. Common knowledge, information and beliefs that you are happy to share with other people. The hidden self information and the beliefs about yourself that you do not normally share with other people. Finally, there are thoughts that others have about you, which you know that they have, but you don't want know what they are. You have a suspicion about the thoughts might be, but you have never asked the person concerned to validate your suspicions. These suspicions make up the blackmailer. By suspicions, I mean the negative thoughts that you believe others hold about you. The blackmailer information and beliefs that you believe others hold about you, but do not have confirmed your suspicions. Common knowledge, information and beliefs that you are happy to share with other people. The hidden self-information and belief about yourself that you do not normally share with other people. It is your fear or concern of the negative thoughts about Others might hold about you that provides the blackmailer with a lot of power over you. Your mental blackmailer is very much like a real blackmailer, and that you hold beliefs and information about yourself in your hidden self that you believe to be true, and wanting to hide this, you provide the blackmailer with an opportunity to discover your secrets and hold it against you. I'm referring only to your negative self-beliefs. The blackmailer never advertises the good. They are only interested in the bad. Think back to a time when you made a silly mistake and you were caught. Did you worry about what the other person thought? Or imagine for a moment that you are at a party and you have too few many drinks. You wake up the next morning and think about what you did and said. Your next thought is, oh no. You worry about you may well have let others see part of your hidden self, and this leaves you feeling a little vulnerable. In fact, you are making that mistake. The reason for this is that you have let someone else see your hidden self, and given that you often do not believe it is a very positive good one, you worry because you are afraid you have been found out for who you really are. By saying more of yourself than normal, you have in fact decreased your hidden self and put that information into the common knowledge area. This in itself is not a problem. It is only a problem when you start to worry about what others think about you. The fear is that by allowing others to see more of who you really are within your hidden self, the more vulnerable you become, decreasing your hidden self. This is how the blackmailer gets to its power. It is your need to hide parts of yourself, your hidden self, that actually makes you vulnerable. For example, as an MSc student, I was having great difficulty understanding the lectures for one subject. I struggled on for a while, but eventually came to the conclusion that my belief about myself of being a little slow must be true, and that the lecturer also knew that by now. In my hidden self was the belief that I was a little slow. My lack of understanding in the lectures must have been obvious to all. The lecturer certainly must have realized my inadequacy. Believing this to be the case, I was at the mercy of the awesome power of my blackmailer, and that I'm convinced the lecturer knew my hidden secret and I had found out for being slow. I worried for several weeks, getting more and more stressed in the lectures till I could hardly keep up with the subject at all. Fortunately, I recognized that the only way to defeat the blackmailer and be free of my crippling hold was to admit my shortcoming. In other words, to talk to the lecturer. Taking all my courage in hand, I went to the lecturer and admitted my secret. I informed the lecturer that I wasn't following all the material and I was having serious difficulty understanding more than 50% of what was being taught. Fearing the worst, I waited for his reply. The lecturer smiled and said, "You're doing quite well then. Most people only get about 35%. This is a true story of the days at university, and another somewhat simplistic in nature, it does demonstrate the point was that in real life, blackmailers lose their power the moment the person being blackmailed is willing to have the secret disclosed publicly. The secret you hold in your hidden self often do not have all the negative meanings and consequences that you are to them. I'm not suggesting that you go out and wear your soul, but just that you recognize that the secrets you feel are so bad, perhaps are not all that devastating when you are revealed. Be prepared to have your hidden self discovered. You will find that you lose an enormous fear and are much more able to be yourself and be okay with that. After all, if you really have a look at what is in your hidden self, is it that bad? Moreover, it is probably true to say that everyone has something to hide, which means a lot of us share the same fear of disclosing our hidden self. We all end up hiding from each other. The best way to deal with a blackmailer is to accept yourself, shortcomings and all, to be able to declare openly whatever it is that you think is not good about yourself, and you can do whatever to improve it. You should do this at least to yourself. When you deny, the blackmailer just gets more power. Take away the power of the blackmailer by choosing to allow others to see that you are less than perfect. After all, when you discover these deficiencies about you, someone else, don't you feel relieved that they are human after all? You can also decrease the blackmailer's power by asking people for feedback, by asking them what they think about you. Then this increases the common knowledge area and bringing in information and beliefs that other people hold about you. The less energy you have to put in protecting your hidden self, the more energy you have for getting on with your life. Summary: most of you probably spend some energy hiding from others. That's person you don't deep inside because you fear the judgment of other people. It is as if you have an internal blackmailer who has all sorts of things just so because you're not found out for who you really are. To demonstrate how powerful this can be, I would like to share another true story with you. A man was made redundant in rather than admitting this was the case. He would leave home every morning as usual and come back in the evening at the same time as he always did when he was working. He used to sit in the park all day. He was unable to tell his wife that he had been made redundant because he thought he was not good enough at his job and had been found out. This story does have a happy ending. He eventually admitted what had happened, was placed on an outplacement program and got a new job. If he had been able to say what had happened earlier, he would have spent much less time sitting in the park feeling miserable. Your self-image may contain information about the fact that you're not good at something. So what? Look back at your personal portfolio and your life map, noticing that nothing can take away your skills or what you have already achieved. Instead of avoiding fear, face it and do what scares you most. Instead of avoiding fear, face it and do what scares you most. If you ever feel like you're being a fraud and one day someone is going to find out the truth, your black mirror is at work. Aha! Breaking through. Toddlers have a great ability to break through barriers that constrain us as results as adults. They are blissfully unaware of themselves in terms of image, right and wrong. They simply are. Usually, one thing on their mind is their own immediate needs and wants. Then, as they start to grow older and develop their own separate identities, they learn to make sense of their surroundings and manage their environment. All the signals and messages that you see get interpreted into a sense of the world and they place in it. And this is the beginning of the development of their self-image. This is, however, a small problem here. Think about a young girl standing at the bus stop with her mother. She bends down to do up her shoelace, and as she struggles to make the loops, her mother bends down and says, "I'll do that." The mother lightly brushes the child's hands away and does the shoelaces in a few seconds, just before she lifts the child up and gets on the bus. There are several possible interpretations of the sequence of events. From the child's point, it might be as follows: "I'm doing that. I was doing that. Mommy always does it for me. Why can't I do it? I'm too slow. This is our bus. We can't get in on it because we need to get home." If you ever do the work, once a belief has taken hold, you look for evidence to verify it. That's so true. Core belief. What is in your being that always has you question yourself? You're probably your own hardest critic. Now, why is that? Are you born that way, or is it a skill you learn? This is where I can hear you saying that it depends on personality or upbringing, on your whole past experience, and you find, well, be right. All this is true, but that doesn't mean you can't change it as an adult. Clearly, your crucial factor is your perception of yourself, your levels of recognition and confidence. Your image depends not only on what you have been through in your life, but also how you experience and interpret those events. This is where the problem starts with your interpretation of events and things that happen to you. You start developing interpretations in early childhood, but unfortunately, you don't have the intellectual capacity to rationalize events as a child. You work on feelings, not facts. All this, of course, is not new, but it can solve some of your basic insecurities about yourself. Think about something that you know you're not good at. Now think about how you came to that conclusion, and when you came to that conclusion, you likely answers to these questions are that either you attempted something and failed and someone told you that you were not good at it, or someone laughed at your attempt. When you learn to speak as a child, don't you make mistakes and don't people laugh? Still you learn to speak. You didn't stop trying just because it was hard, and yet that is exactly what you do as an adult. You stop trying, you stop believing in yourself. You remember saying to yourself as a child, "I'll never learn to speak." So what's the point? Imagine as a child to take your first tentative steps and fall. You didn't sit there and say, "Well, I looked really silly doing that. I'm not going to do it again." No, of course not. As a baby, you were blissfully and aware of yourself as a separate entity. And just as well, really. This all changes as you grow older. You become aware of yourself in your environment. You literally become self-conscious. You start to worry about your appeal to others. For example, there's someone you really like and want a relationship with him or her, but the story is in your head. Goes something like this: "I can't go out with him because I always mess up relationship. I can't give commitment. I always leave me. I know this is going to leave me vulnerable and hurt, or so why go through all the pain? I would better not call him because it's always the same and he would probably reject me anyway." As a child. You build your perceptions of the world and yourself, and create survival mechanisms. You learn Which actions or set of circumstances bring you pain and which bring you pleasure? You're not to do things to bring pain and to do things that bring pleasure and or payoff. You create patterns of behaviors which ensure your survival at the time. They really work. They are what gets you through life. Some of these are very powerful and positive. However, some become inappropriate as you grow up. They become out of date and a reaction to your view of the world rather than a real danger. An example of this is when a child feels that his parents are in there for its protection and the people in the world are not to be trusted. The child will start to rely on itself, on its safety. As they grow up, these children collect the evidence and become more and more independent. They feel they don't need anybody, they can manage everything by themselves. Initially, they may have been a good survival mechanism, but as they grow older, it prevents them from creating relationships after all. They don't need anybody. And anyway, if they didn't admit they needed someone, they might get hurt because people aren't to be trusted. To avoid the pain of being laid down, betrayed, the child doesn't talk to anyone other than itself for safety. This may work in many positive ways, but there is also cost. Everything you do has a cost and a payoff. The payoff here is that the person is self-reliant. The cost is that it is hard for them to admit that they need other people, and that comes the difficulty of maintaining relationships. The event cycle shows how your interpretations of and conclusions about the events in your life lead to actions which have results or consequences. Your actions comprise behaviors that carry with them a payoff, something you get out of it, and a cost, something you lose. Each action has a payoff and a cost. For example, being distant from people might be a way of protecting yourself from being vulnerable, payoff. However, the same behavior alienates people and make relationship building difficult, cost. So event, consequences, interpretation, conclusion. Interpretation gives you self-perception and behavior patterns. Self-perception leads to discrepancy between what you want to be and what you think you are, hiding, fraud, cover-up, blackmail. Behavior patterns, cost and payoffs, okay. When in balance, if not, then change. Beautiful. As long as the payoff of an action is greater than the cost, you will maintain that behavior. As soon as the cost becomes too high, you will seek to establish a new behavior with a high payoff. This concept may feel somewhat cold and alien. It's not intended to be. You are rarely totally conscious of the payoffs and the cost of your behavior. Often you do not take the time to question them or the assumptions they are based on. When the balance of cost and the payoff changes and you recognize it, you're forced to change. You're forced to create new possibilities, interpretations, and perhaps even renew your self-perceptions. The conclusions you draw as a result of the actions and the consequences on the basis of your self-perceptions. When there is a discrepancy between what you want to be and what you think you are, you start to generate patterns of behaviors you would cover up that discrepancy, and that's when the blackmail can take charge. Interpretations. As an adult, you need to learn to manage your negative beliefs and feelings. You need to become an objective scientist and an evidence collector. This needs to be done at a conscious level. The easiest way to start is by looking at the events that have occurred and how they make you feel. Very much like when one starts a diet, the advice is to start by monitoring everything you eat each day. This provides invaluable evidence about what is happening. Only then can appropriate actions be planned accordingly. Start managing your beliefs by writing down key events that occur each day. This should take just a few couple of minutes each evening. For example, let's say that you probably are happy driving along and someone cuts across you to turn without any warning and regard for your safety. How would you describe that event? Or have you been waiting patiently in the queue and someone jumps out ahead of you? How would you feel? When something happens, feelings are generated by the associated meaning that you attribute to that event. Mostly, however, you don't analyze the meaning at the time. You simply feel and react. So the events creates a feeling which is generated, but meaning you have attributed to the event. Similar events will generate similar feelings because the underlying feeling you attribute to them is the same. This is why in certain situations you always get hurt, frustrated, or intimidated. It is like a trigger that always gets a similar reaction. You might even go so far as allowing people to remind you of someone to influence how you feel about them. When you first meet somebody new, you have an opinion about them within about 7 seconds, and what's more, you assume that you are correct. And the question is, what do you base that opinion on? Anyway, the point here is that you attribute meaning to events which then generate a feeling. using either the information you have been gathering over the past week or alternatively just thinking about recent events. Simply write down the events and feelings that went with it. Choose events that make you feel angry, embarrassed, uncomfortable, or gave you any other negative feeling. Event tap the broken again, trap broke again. Feeling anger and frustration. My partner was very grumpy after work, tired, furious, helpless. Someone is in the shop, so was rude to me. Indignation, anger. Collecting your evidence, monitoring. Aha. After a few days of acknowledging events and how you feel about them, you will learn to listen to your feelings rather than simply react to them. They will start to become conscious. This will, however, be the first step towards learning how to manage the natural triggers that you have. The next step is somewhat more difficult because it needs you to suspend your feelings and to analyze them. The tap broke again, anger and frustration, meaning I paid to have it fixed. It will waste more of my time. I will have to fight with the plumber. Why can't anyone get things right? He's making a fool of me. I'm stupid. I'm dependent on him because I don't know how to fix it. I'm useless. As you can see, a simple event like a broken tap can have a whole range of meanings to it. Can you see what has happened? The event means something. The point is that it really doesn't matter what the events are. Their meaning becomes all important, and meaning is what will generate a feeling and consequently your response subsequently. An event is the example may have in your all of the meanings attached to it. However, there's probably one that's really significant. When the implications of the meaning comes close to a negative belief we hold about ourselves, the black matter comes into action. You feel threatened because part of your hidden self is about to be or has been exposed. It is at this time that you get triggered by the feeling, which becomes all powerful and drives your action at that moment. Perhaps you experience sudden anger, fear, or stress. In the case about the significant meaning might be he is making a fool of me or I'm useless. To the fact that the tap broke had made the person feel silly and useless, no wonder there are some feelings attached to that event. A common event that many people may get very upset about is kept wedding. Let's talk about it. The event you had an appointment. The other person is late and you're waiting. How many times do you find your level of irritation increase the longer you wait? Now ask yourself why that is. All that is happening is that you are waiting, but the anger just keeps getting stronger and stronger finally. They arrive, and the first thing you say in the tone of frustration, you're late. So the feeling is one of anger, frustration, being late, down, or something similar. What is the meaning? We usually make it mean it's not important enough. I'm not important enough for them to be on time and keep their commitment to me. There was something or someone else more important. I was here on time. I made an effort. They don't respect me. They feel more important than me. They are wasting my time and so on. In the business world, keeping people waiting is something sometimes used to intimidate and give exactly these messages, and most of the people fall for it. Having realized how meanings and feelings attached to events, your attention must focus on how you can own these feelings and meanings and take control of them. The concept is very simple. You have a choice. The feelings rule you or you rule your feelings. That doesn't mean that you have to become a cold and unfeeling person. The feelings will still occur, but you will gain the ability to choose how you react to them. Imagine you're walking down the street and there's a small group of people walking towards you. They are looking at you and saying something, and then there's a giggle. Wouldn't you wonder what they had said about you? Maybe they weren't speaking about you at all. It's an assumption you make. I know you feel pretty sure about your conclusions, but unless you validate them, you can't prove it to be correct or incorrect. I could go on citing hundreds of examples of people getting upset by a consequence of events because of the meaning that they had attributed to those events, all based on assumptions. The events may or may not mean what you have made them mean. The question is, why do you believe the meaning you attribute to events? You rarely have proof for them. You rarely ask people to verify your interpretations. When was the last time that someone was late for an appointment with you and you asked them, are you late because I'm not important enough for you to be on time? Now take your event and feelings list and take a few minutes by yourself to be honest and write down what the event meant to you. To help identify the meaning, ask yourself the following question. What does the event imply about me? Or what does the event show about how others perceive me? your evidence to meaning interpretation, event, feeling, and meaning. The tricky bit comes next. If the meaning is positive and makes you feel good, fine, leave it alone. If, however, the meaning gives you a negative, angry, upset, or worried feeling, then question your assumptions. The fact is, you make assumptions and then believe your own interpretations. Why should you, especially when they make you feel good, bad? Go back and look at some of the meanings. Now prove them to be right. Provide objective evidence that proves your meaning beyond that any doubt. Impossible, isn't it? Now you're ready to start to manage your interpretations and thereby your conclusions and beliefs, not to mention your feelings. Try to generate alternative meanings. In the example of a broken tap, alternative meaning might be that the plumber, had a bad day, he is incompetent, he is too much work and is stressed. The past he plays a faulty, something you could not have known, or perhaps it is not the same problem. Any of the new meanings listed above are just as valid as the original list. There is, however, one huge difference, and that is the feeling they generate. Make sure you spend adequate time with your list to generate alternative meanings. Then ask yourself which set of meanings gives you a better feeling. Probably the second best. Since neither set of meanings are proven to be correct or incorrect, why not choose the ones that make you feel better? Now choose which feelings you want and therefore which interpretation you choose to believe. Remember, you don't usually check your interpretations. They are all equally valid. So why choose the one that makes you feel bad? Have you ever had a conversation with a person who said or did something that you didn't quite understand, letting you think long and hard about what it really was that they were trying to convey? You start dragging in all sorts of pieces of information about them yourself, and the exchange that they will help you to interpret the event and make sense out of it. Your search for the meaning. Sometimes it's the things that aren't said that generate all this analysis in you. Well, unless you're prepared to go and ask the person concerned exactly what they meant, you would try to guess the meaning forever and never be sure. The problem is that we live by these meanings as if they are true, and not of the time they are negative. My challenge to you is to start seeing the events in the objective light, to experience whatever feeling they give you without reacting immediately, to search for the meaning that you have given them, and finally to create and choose the meaning they live you with the best possible feeling then you can take action. The meaning you assume to be right at once that fit into your assumption and beliefs of the world. All of the alternative meanings may seem illogical because they do not fit into your past evidence. That's fine, except that who says that your perception of the world was right in the first place? Here's an example from a client of mine. I'll call him John. John was made redundant. His story, my boss Sarah, made me redundant. I don't understand it. My appraisal was really good and I got on really well with Sarah. It was her best team number. I was her best team number. So why did she make me redundant? She's been using me all these years and now I'm dispensable. My work is acknowledged and she has been lying to me. This clearly is a negative story and not very beautiful. Powerful one for creating a new future. After talking to John for a while, I found that Sarah had a strong disagreement with her boss, Tony. I proposed the following positive interpretation. Tony wanted to harm Sarah as much as possible. So he took out the best team member, John, pulled rank to do it, and in one fell swoop, weakened Sarah's team and therefore her ability to meet her targets. This alternative story was never proven, but it sounded plausible and gave John a different perspective on his redundancy and a much more positive outlook on his own abilities and his future. Your beliefs, assumptions, and interpretations and events are based on your self-perceptions and your perceptions of the world. Most of these can be traced back to a few core beliefs, and in my experience as a coach, most of us at least one of the following core beliefs. Core, I'm a failure. These people need to be seen to be succeeding. Need of people holding these core beliefs. I'm a fraud. These people spend a lot of time hiding in case they are found out. I'm not good enough. These people need to be seen to be better than most and to be right. I'm not lovable. These people go to extraordinary lengths to be seen to be loved. They have difficulty saying no to requests that are made of them. I'm stupid. These people need to be seen to be intelligent, intellectual, and smart. I'm not likable. These people need to be liked and will often pay a huge price to avoid conflict. What beliefs do you think you hold? Remember, your core beliefs can generate very positive behaviors as well. Each has its payoff at cost. Beliefs are like I'm a failure can actually be very positive because you might work very hard to disprove to it, so you will end up succeeding. Is the core belief running you or are you running it? If you have difficulty seeing at least one of your core beliefs, look back through your event, feeling and meaning exercise and see if there are any trends or similarities in the events that make you angry or upset. Keep asking the question, what does that mean about me? Fear of failure, how many of you can identify with this? It is probably the most common fear. If I do this, will I succeed? What if I get it wrong? What if I fall flat on my face? Will I look silly? What will people think? All these good reasons can bring up the mind as to why you shouldn't take the risks that need to be taken. You can really think of hundreds of reasons why something probably wouldn't be a good idea. Fear of failing can have a paralyzing effect. If I try, I might fail. So I won't try anything that I don't already know I can do. Consider the following. Failure equals not achieving your goal. Not doing anything equals not achieving your goal. So not doing anything equals failure. This is so true. So not doing anything equals failure. Wow. So we all make mistakes, and it's okay to make mistakes. It's the only way you can learn. If you do not know what doesn't work, how can you find out what does? Everyone makes. Every mistake is an opportunity for learning. Every mistake tells you something about how not to do things. It is only by trying out new things that any discoveries are made, and naturally some of these things you do will go wrong. Somebody? Remember that your interpretation of events may not be correct. Interpretations are tricky things, and unless you ask someone directly what they think and feel, you had better not make any guesses because the chances are you will be incorrect, and these interpretations will have a negative impact on you. If you have not checked your interpretation and it is a negative one, then dump the interpretation. You have the responsibility to yourself and to choose how you feel about things. Also, you have the responsibility to choose how you interpret things. You need to stick to the facts. Since you cannot prove the interpretation, why choose to live with a negative one? Ask yourself, is it better not to try anything in case it goes wrong, or is it better to try something new that may yield wonderful results? The question is about the risk you are prepared to take. Ask yourself, is it better not to try anything in case it goes wrong, or is it better to try something new that may yield wonderful results? Question is about the risk you're prepared to take. No risk, no gain. Taking back your power. Beautiful. I love you. I love you all too, of course. Love you, God. Being powerful in life is understanding that either life drives you or you drive it. It is true. Many events happen over which you have no control. However, you still have control over how you feel about them and what you do about them. The concept here is one of understanding that you have choices, and that having made choices, you are responsible for the resulting consequences. In other words, taking back your power is understanding your choices and accepting responsibility for the consequences of these choices. Even when you feel you had little choice about the consequences, you can still choose how you feel about them and therefore how you manage them. Everything you do or felt to do carries consequences with it. You own all those consequences. Beautiful. Love you, girl. 7-Eleven. Taking back your power. Being powerful in life is understanding that either life drives you or you drive it. It is true many events happen over which you have no control. However, you still have control over how you feel about them and what you do about them. The concept here is one of understanding that you have choices, and that having made choices, you are responsible for the resulting consequences. In other words, taking back your power is understanding your choices and accepting responsibility for the consequences of these choices. Even when you feel you had little choice about the consequences, you can still choose how you feel about them and therefore how you manage them. Everything you do or fail to do carries consequences with it. You own all those consequences. This chapter will explore how you take responsibilities for the events in your life and their consequences. It is about seeing that blame and complaining are sure ways of handling all your power, either to someone else or to any situation. Imagine that you have had a strong disagreement with someone. You can choose separate courses of action. You can ignore them out of the problem. You can wait for them to come to you in an attempt to resolve the issue, or you can go to them in an attempt to resolve it. Choosing to ignore it will leave the situation incomplete. Waiting for them to resolve the situation leaves you at their mercy. The third option shows that you are capable to take responsibility for what has happened and able to do something about it. Right versus wrong. Being able to take action and to resolve the situation requires that you are able to sit back, do the event, feeling and meaning exercise, and forget about what might be, maybe, and right or wrong. Worrying about being right or being wrong, strong or weak, does nothing to resolve the situation, even if you are right or what. The situation is still the same. Whichever course of action you choose, you should rejoice in the consequences, as you are the one who has chosen, and taking responsibility is realizing that the only person who can do anything about the situation in your life is you. If you wait for others, it will take a very long time. It is basically three approaches you can take to deal with events in your life. The passive approach, I'm wrong and you're right, let's do it your way. The aggressive approach, I'm right, you're wrong, let's do it my way. The assertive approach, I'm right, you're right, let's work on it together. In taking responsibility, it is crucial that you think and plan the strategies you will adopt. For example, if you choose to take responsibility for managing your relationship, you need to give careful thought as to how you approach the person involved. You may feel that you're not angry and blaming them. However, if there is anything in your verbal or body language that suggests to them that you feel you're right, you may as well not have the conversation at all. If in doubt about where to start, always use questions, avoid statements, adopt the investigative approach. Think about when someone has approached you with an accusing tone or stance as opposed to someone approaching you with curiosity and a desire to understand. Your behavior is likely to be very different in each of these cases. Perspective taking. You react to events and events react to you. Changing something to do will change the reaction to you get or the situation you are in. One of the easiest things to change is how you see a situation, in other words, your perspective. All this takes is looking at the situation from how others might see it. Imagine different people you know and think about what they would say about the situation or how they might see it. The technique for achieving an assertive approach is to see the situation from the other's perspective. If you and I are looking at the same objective from different angles, you will see different things. Your description of the object will be different from mine, and both will be right. Similarly, two people may go and see the same film and come out with different perceptions of it. Which one is right? Even two people in verbal communication together can walk away from the exchange with very different ideas of what was said and agree. Which one is right? In all these examples, both views are right, and they are just different. Whether you feel you're more passive or an aggressive type of person, just what you see to yourself that all perspectives are valid and legitimate. There is no wrong and right, and there's no better and worse. There are, of course, a few universally agreed rights and wrongs, like the taking of life or the violation of human rights. You will all have a few of these that make up your values in life, but they are probably few. Completing the past. For most people, their situation when they have been hurt, betrayed, let down, or something equivalent. These things happen, it is how you deal with them that's important. Giving the situation and that will leave. It's incomplete something for your mind to carry along. It also means that similar events will trigger and a whole set of emotions that are not necessarily related to the present but will bring up the past as well. By the time most people are 30, they have a suitcase full of events and upsets that they carry with them. The difficulty is that as the suitcase gets fuller, it gets heavier and takes more and more of your energy to carry around, leaving less and less energy to do something positive and powerful. It is essential that you keep the suitcase as light as you can. Remember earlier in the book, the idea of asking people directly or for their opinions about you. This is aimed at preventing the blackmail or getting hold of you, but also to prevent things being packed into your suitcase. Once everything has been fully discussed and understood, there's nothing for you to put in your suitcase. So how do you complete the past? Well, the first step is to stop worrying about right or not. You may well feel that is important for the other person to acknowledge they are wrong about something. If that is what you feel, then you're not ready to deal with the situation. You're ready to be right, which is very different. Apart from if you're absolutely right and wrong, it's very relative. It all depends on how you see the situation. Remember, the moment you think you're right, you're made someone else wrong. How much do you enjoy being wrong? while the other person probably feels the same about it. When you're ready to approach the situation with an open mind and you can take an assertive approach, the next step is to have a look in your suitcase and see which relationship and people you keep in there. Perhaps somebody did something that you find unforgivable or something that you still gets you angry just thinking about it or the person involved, or perhaps you told someone a small lie and a relationship has never been quite the same since. Think of a situation where you blame something or simple for the consequences you had to put up with. Now follow these steps. Completion requires the following steps as shown. Event, feeling, meaning. Positive interpretations, check assumptions, objective interpretations. Choose your positive objective interpretation that leads to think what needs to be done, said or asked. To plan your strategy, check you are not blaming or being right. Then do it, dump it, completing the task, so pretty. Payoff and the costs of action. Sometimes it's very hard to see what you can do to change them. You might think that you've tried everything, while the simple rule is that you are trying something and it isn't getting the desired results, then clearly you're not doing the right thing. Then try anything else, because if you keep doing what you are doing, going to keep on getting what you're getting. However, it's not quite that simple, because your behavior, has been mentioned earlier, has a payoff and a cost. You need to stop and think about this might be before you will be able to change your behavior. For example, imagine a house with two students living in it, Simon and Paul. They have agreed that they will all do house clean on Saturdays, and each has been assigned certain tasks. Over the week, Simon consistently breaks the agreement. Paul, of course, is getting more and more angry each week until finally he does Simon's task as well as his own. Paul feels he has tried to talk to Simon, but it just isn't getting him anywhere. When Simon sees Paul doing the work, he suddenly offers to do it, but Paul refuses the offer and continues to clean the house by himself, looking at Paul's behavior. There are some clear payoffs and costs. Payoff of Paul's behavior: Paul gets to be indignant and makes Simon feel wrong for not keeping to the agreement. Cause for Paul's behavior: Paul has to clean the house by himself. He is risking his relationship with Simon. In order for Paul to be able to change his behavior and the situation, he would first need to recognize his payoffs and costs and then create a new behavior pattern with a different set of payoffs and costs. He will only change his behavior when new payoffs are more attractive than the old ones, or if the new costs are less than the old ones. When trying to change your behavior, do a quick analysis using the following metrics. It will help you identify why you might want to change your behavior in the first place. Payoff of a current behavior, cost of your current behavior. Payoff of the new behavior, cost of the new behavior. Beautiful. This is payoff and cost analysis. In the example above, Paul might change his behavior by talking the situation through with Simon and trying to resolve it. The payoff of his new behavior might be that he improves his relationship with Simon, but the cost is that he will have to give up the feeling wronged and learn to understand where Simon is coming from. There may even be a cost of having the conversation with Simon, and that it might lead to conflict. Worst case scenarios. Let's say that in your company there have been a number of redundancies recently, and everyone is on edge drinking. Am I next? Thinking, am I next? Everyone, including you, is extra careful not to attract too much attention, and everyone is more trustful than usual of making mistakes that might be used as an excuse to make them redundant. Then things start to go wrong. You make a mistake and worry so much about it that you lose concentration and make another. In your mind, you can see how your future will help. Your mind keeps going over and over these future events till you feel as though you have already been made redundant. Your fear of redundancy becomes paralyzing, and you're bound up in this course of events waiting for you the inevitable. Their fear is mounting, their stress levels are increasing, your home life is deteriorating, and you can do nothing except watch yourself approach redundancy. Two things. On one, your assumptions will have you behaved in a way that will make things come true, because that's the evidence you are looking for, and you usually find it because you're normally right. Two, your behavior, body language, and tone, everything you do is a communication will elicit the response you expect. You map out in your mind, of course, the events and then watch it happen. Now, just stop there for a minute, because what would happen if you challenge your assumptions and mapped out a different course of events? You may still feel that one is more likely to happen, but at least there is an alternative. People made redundant, make mistakes, by off telling off by boss. Now stop here. Improve my performance, recognize for my contribution. Now actions, consequences. Every chain of events has choices along it. You need to alter your view of the future events if you are to change your future, such as the choice point is shown by X of the event chain. At these points, you need to examine your imagined event chains and change them. You need to avoid the negative self-fulfilling prophecy and replace it with a positive note. Example, I will improve my performance such that I gain recognition for it. Step one of the process is to talk through the events mentally and see whether there is anything you can do to change the course of the events to have consequences. B, which is that you do not lose your job but instead get acknowledgement for your performance. This means believing that you are in charge and able to create the consequences that you want. In order to do that, you need to know what you want. You need to be able to imagine what that as vividly as you can imagine the negative scenario, and then you need to work towards it. Step two is to stand back and acknowledge that A is a real possibility, but rather than wait for it to happen, you could plan for dealing with the consequences when it does. So you might start looking for a paper for a new job and exploring how to manage your finances better. You need to consider all possible actions that you would like to take should A happen. Generate an action plan for the event that if it happens, you're prepared. Most fears are about things that haven't happened yet and about not knowing how to deal with them if they do. If you're prepared for it, then your fear levels will become more rational and easier to deal with. Another example, one that is simpler and uses the same principle. Imagine you have been invited to a dinner party. You know it's going to be an awful experience. You never let's go, and indeed it's an awful experience. Most likely it is your attitude and nothing else that will make it an awful experience. If any of you at this point are saying no, it was awful, because then go back and reread the last few pages about owning the consequences of your actions. To take ownership of your life means you get to create what you want. That means you have to be able to see what is possible for you. You need to be able to dream and hold a vision of yourself in your life that for you is powerful, fun, and fulfilling. The next chapter will look at how you can do that. And there are, of course, times when the negative interpretations or consequences are real and will happen for these occasions. Remember, the fear of it is happening is what is paralyzing. Once the event has occurred, you are forced to act. It is often the fact that you do not know how we should behave or what we would do in the feared consequences that keeps the fear alive. If redundancy is a real possibility, then you must start to plan for it, perhaps by writing your CV, hunting for jobs, saving money, checking related price, etc. Planning for prevention of the consequences and planning for the consequences can help to reduce fear. Summary. The way to have a choice in your life is to own the consequences of your actions. You can own or disown your life depending on how you deal with events in it. How often do you blame others and consequences for your problems and upsets? It's much easier to say I couldn't get the report out because I was still waiting for information from the finance department. In relationships, this is often the cause of the breakdown because each partner accuses the other of doing or not doing something that has caused a problem in the relationship. When you blame others or external events for your emotions or inability to do something, you in fact give away all your power to do anything to change the situation after all. If it isn't your fault, why should you or anything do anything, or indeed what can you do? Well, the truth is that in blaming, you are handing your life over to others or to the circumstances. Question: you ask yourself this: what can I do to change things? You might like to make a few notes here. Beautiful. Generating your future. This is awesome. I'm very much interested in now. So for this, here is where I build my future. I'm interested in future, for that's where I'll spend the rest of my life. If you are making a journey from your house to a friend's house, you will need to know where your house is in relationship to theirs, relation to theirs. You will need to know where your journey starts and where it ends. Look at your life as a journey. If you want to get anywhere, you need to know where you are standing from where you intended to go. Without these two different points, you will simply get lost, end up in a place where you don't want to be, and take twice as long to get there. In this chapter, you're not concerned about how you make the journey. That will be covered in the following chapter. Rather, the point of this chapter is to imagine where your journey will take you. All you are concerned with here is where do you want to go. The difficulty is that often you aren't so sure of what you can and cannot do, and that when you try to create a vision for yourself, all you can see is the problem and obstacles that stand in your way. Think about the following areas in your life or any others you feel